Because Steve and I talk often about his experience in pinstripes and the experience in New York and with Steinbrenner. And I think of the Dodgers with Dodger Blue. And I've never been fortunate enough to be in LA, to be at the stadium. Steve was just there for the All-Star game. Steve, could you talk about like the similarities and differences as far as being in LA, Dodger Stadium versus Yankee Stadium, for example?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the stadiums, but you talk about the organization, as Fred was saying, and it's the culture that is built, right? It's a collaboration between people, from the front office to the people on the staff level, from the staff down to the players, from the players to the clubhouse guys, from the clubhouse guys to the bat boys, and then from the bat boys, it just kind of spreads there to the grounds crew and everybody who works at the fields. So they're special places. You walk into them and there's this feeling of euphoria. There's this feeling of, wow, how many great players have stepped on this field at one particular time, and then you can go back in history and do that. When organizations like the Dodgers and the Yankees, obviously the Red Sox have been around for a very long time, the Chicago Cubs, the White Sox, many others, but the two that always usually stand out, and they're big markets, is the Dodgers and the Yankees. And it's the culture, the way that they do things, the way that they try to win, and the people that they put in place to do these things and come together as one. And that's what makes a great organization. As Fred was talking about, it's a team effort, it's a collaboration, and it's a chemistry, not only between the front office and the clubhouse, but between the players. The chemistry and having a team, just like Kirk Gibson walking into the clubhouse and hearing that story about, hey, what about that team? It's the same thing that guys do today. If you're a winning organization, they're not selfish. They move runners over. They play situational baseball. It's not a guy going up there and looking to just improve his stats because he wants to make the most money. And when you have individuals who do that, the ship sinks. And when you have a team that will situationally hit and pass the baton to the next player, that's when things that are special happen. And those are the teams that go on to win the World Series. And we lost last year to the Braves in the division round. And I can tell you one thing, that it wasn't one player on their team. Freddie Freeman, who is a tremendous player and probably the leader on that team, would do anything to win, after talking with him and having an understanding. And I haven't met him very many times, but the few that I have, he's one of those guys who's a team player, wants to win, and you can see it in how he plays the game, and that's what those organizations bring to the table.
And coincidentally, which team is he on now?
Yeah, he went to the Dodgers, right? So, obviously he's from Southern California, right? But you just, when you're a winning player, you want to go to a winning atmosphere. Fred talked about Mookie Betts being a leader. I had Mookie Betts in the fall league when I was a pitching coach in 2013 in the Arizona League. And, Mookie wasn't Mookie in 2013. He was with the Red Sox. He was bouncing around playing different positions, and they told him he couldn't play short, and he would work in the outfield and second base. And the guy has made himself into a tremendous player and a tremendous leader in the game of baseball.
On a recent episode of The Chosen Journey, Fred, I'm thinking as Steve is talking, I'm looking at his hat. I'm looking at the hat behind me, and I'm thinking of the Brewers. While they don't have the same storied history as the Yankees and Dodgers, something that they had in common that Steve and I were talking about was the voices of these teams and the great Bob Uecker and the stories of Uke and what he's brought to the game and to the team. And in the same token, Vin Scully. And I was saying that I think we're never going to see two like these again, as far as just amazing storytellers and lifelong journeys with the team. And we unfortunately recently just lost Vin. And I don't know how much experience you've had talking with Bob, but I know you spent a lot of time with Vin Scully, and we were hoping you could share some stories today about your time with Vin.
You bet I will. But before I leave the Brewers, I couldn't look at Steve's hat without thinking of someone that probably Steve may have only known by name. But that was my dear friend, Harry Dalton, who was the general manager and who had great success. And Harry, and you learn from all the people around you. I can't think of anyone who relied on better scouts than Harry Dalton did. It was called, Steve, did you know Harry? Did you ever have the chance?
I did not know Harry, but I do know the name and,
Well, you would
have
know him by
heard some
reputation
stories about it.
because it was the
Yes.
Dalton game. And that's why I've always had so much respect. Steve mentioned the Dodgers, the Yankees, and granted, with their history, with their markets. But let's never forget, and we'll get to Vin, the great organizations that do so much with so little, and the people. So I've always had a great deal of respect for respect your opponent. The best words I've ever heard about the game was from my dear friend Joey Malfitano, who I saw yesterday, and those words are respect the game. But with Vin and a relationship, a friendship of 53 years, the most meaningful thing there, I thought this was tremendous. This was the special section in the Los Angeles Times. And I'm happy to see too that Vin was wearing and wore the ring from 1988, which carries a special meaning because he had every Dodger World Series ring. But here's the thing we want to remember about Vin. 1927 to 2022. They used the right quote here. The main thing, I want people to remember me as a good man, a good husband, a good father, a good grandfather. That's the most important thing of all. They didn't just use that quote, find that quote. That's who Vinny was and will always be. I have never met a more gracious, humble, kind man, and one who achieved greatness over 67 years in working for Dodgers. Talk about a passion. Wrote an essay at the age of 8 that he wanted to be a sportscaster. Had the chance to join the Dodgers at the age of 22 in 1950. Went 67 years as the Dodger announcer. The Times had a headline, "The voice of the Dodgers forever." I thought it was a wonderful headline, but I realized it wasn't the best headline. The headline is "The heart of the Dodgers forever," because Vinny set an example. You knew you were a Dodger when Vin Scully introduced you. The players knew it, everyone knew it, but it was the kindness of the man. And when I was fired by the Dodgers in 1998, because that's how my 30-year Dodger journey ended, the most meaningful letter that I received, it will be with me forever, was a letter from Vin. When cancer hit in 2016, I have 2 messages saved on my voicemail. They will always be there. One is Vinny's message, and the other one that came in almost at the same time was my dear friend Sue Rainey, who sang and helped create Dodger Blue. So that's Vinny. Well, it has, in all the response to Vinny, he generated, talk about a team. He generated, everyone felt close to Vinny. Everyone felt connected to Vinny. And that indeed, in his own role, just like a Bill Russell as a basketball player, Vinny had that remarkable ability to bring people together. That's who he was. That was his strength. And God bless, I've never met a more inspirational person.
Do you remember your last conversation with him?
I do. I remember because Vinny loved humor too. And so one of the things I remember with that last conversation, Cheryl and I were on the phone with him, and he said, if I didn't have my doctor's appointment, I wouldn't have any social life at all. So Vinny found humor in everything. But Vinny, at his age, realized his point in life and wasn't trying to hold on to anything. He simply wanted to be with his family, and but at his service yesterday, his wonderful family did such a great job in paying tribute to Vinny, and all of the Dodgers, from Sandy Koufax to Clayton Kershaw, were there. So it was a wonderful tribute to a wonderful man.
Not to ask a silly question, but we've all gone through emotions. We've lost loved ones, and going through the book in Extra Innings and talking about your experiences and thinking through, we lose Tommy Lasorda, we lose Kevin Towers, now Vin. It doesn't get any easier, does it, as time goes along? And you think we become immune to it, but how do you cope with loss, Fred, when that happens?
I cope with it through the words of Vinny. Not these specific words, but the meaning. Mourn not what we have lost. Think of the memories we have gained. And that's how I thought about the passing of my parents. That's how I think about the passing now of my dear friend Vinny. Mourn not the loss. How blessed all of us were to know Vinny and to be close to Vinny. And indeed, the listeners were close to Vinny. So I think that's the way you have to let go, and you have to move on. And Vinny said that, and I think was conveying that even to the fans when he spoke, and knowing Vinny when he spoke about a season will end and another season will come in to be there. And that indeed is life.